Good evening, esteemed viewer, and before we begin I would like to apologize for any sounds you might hear in the background. Those sounds are my open window and my fan blowing, because I come to you, live, or not, from the great southern land, and let me tell you mate, it's bloody hot down here. Don't even need a barbie for me shrimp, just hold it outside in the sun. The few friends I have are probably getting quite sick of how much I complain about summer. It's a lot. Because it sucks. Anyway, I'm coming to you today because I want to tell you about the new Star Wars card and dice game, Star Wars Destiny. It's a relatively new game. It came out in Australia about a week or so ago. It's been out in the States a little bit longer, but that is typically the case. The game itself is kind of a collectible card game with dice. You get a starter deck, and you've also got booster packs with which you can upgrade your deck and eventually customize your very own 30-card deck with 2 or more characters. And the purpose of this video is not to teach you how to play, that I might do at a different time. What I'm trying to do now is just convince you of why you might like to play the game. And like most licensed games, you're going to have to decide based on 2 things, and those are gameplay and flavor. Just because I said them in that order, I'm going to talk about flavor first. Okay, so, flavor. It's Star Wars. You know what Star Wars is. Even if you don't know what Star Wars is, you know what Star Wars is. It has the Jedi and the Sith and the movies and the lightsabers. It has the fandom and the even more fandom. It just doesn't stop. And it's got the several movies coming out in the future from now until we all die, I suppose. And if you're looking for a flavorful game, then I'm afraid I'm going to have to say that this game is in the flavor department. It's certainly skinned well. It looks like a Star Wars game. It has characters from the whole thing. Like, not just the original trilogy, not just the prequel trilogy, and not just the new movies. Literally the whole of Star Wars canon is represented in this game. I've seen stuff from all 3 trilogies, Rebels, Clone Wars, several of the novels, several of the comics, and they are all featured in this game in some way or another. But does the game feel like I'm playing a Star Wars game? Are there elements representative of Sith, Jedi? Kind of? This is a dice game, and there are a lot of luck manipulation mechanics, which I suppose can represent the Force and just the sheer luck that most of the heroes get through. You get support and you get upgrades, which is similar to how in most of the films the characters will find allies or new items to help them in their quest. So there are certainly some Star Wars elements there, but I don't know that I would say this game concept is exclusive to Star Wars at all. The aim of the game is basically just to kill your opponent, which literally any other CCG does. So no, the Star Wars license alone isn't going to engross you in this game. What will engross you in this game, though, is the gameplay. This is definitely a gamer's game. It involves a lot of strategy, a lot of pre-thought, a lot of planning. Major quality of this game is the fact that you can, for the most part, see what your opponent is capable of at all times, which makes it akin to chess in that you're always able to think about your opponent's move and think a move beyond that. As noted before, dice are a major factor in this game, which brings a lot of risk/reward element to the game. You can always try to push for more powerful effects at the cost of certain things to you. For example, one of the game mechanics is that you can discard a card from your hand to re-roll any number of your dice, but you can always end up with a worse result. Meanwhile, with the re-roll mechanics, you can often end up having to make sacrifices in your own game plan to alter your opponent's game plan, and this, I think, really encourages the tactical thinking that I like to see when I'm playing a game. This game does have a resource system, a lot like Magic or Pokemon or even the DBZ trading card game, in which every card has a cost of some kind. Even if it's from 0 to X, you are paying some degree of cost for these cards. These come out of your resource pool. Now you can gain resources through your turn, and you always start your turn with 2 resources at minimum, which means that you have to think about how you are going to play your cards, in addition to certain costs on your character dice or on your characters themselves. In terms of deck building, I feel like this game really benefits from the limitations it imposes upon itself. Your deck can only contain cards that are the same color as the characters you are running, and you can only have 2 of a kind of any given card. In addition, the deck is only 30 cards big. This ends up creating a much more concise deck. And while at the moment deck space is fairly free because the game itself is still fairly simple, being that it's only 1 set old, I feel like in the future this will make your deck building choices far more concise. Every new set will bring more cards to the table, and that will make you think a lot harder about what deserves a spot in your very limited 30-card deck. You also have to consider which characters you are bringing. You only have 30, quote, points of characters to play with, and each character costs X amount of points to use either 1 or 2 of its dice. For example, Darth Vader is the most expensive character in the game, requiring 16 of your 30 points just to play 1 of his dice, or 21 of your 30 just to play 2. While Vader is a very strong character on his own and has a lot of attack on his die, in choosing to use him, you are going to be limited in the number of plays you can make. Meanwhile, you could have several weaker characters. You're going to have a lot of dice on the table, but they're not going to achieve as much as Vader would on his own. Meaning, literally everything you do will impact the way that your deck is built. And finally, if the technical parts of that aren't enough to tell you that you will enjoy this game, I can only give you my personal feelings about it. I have been playing this game now for 2 weeks, as it's only been out here for 2 weeks, and I have come to really, really love this game. It's a fantastic game. The games are very close. They're always very close, and I think that says a lot more about how good the game is than anything else, because you and your opponent are always engaged in a very tight, actual game. You aren't sitting down at the table and just going, well, I win, and then off you go. You are playing a game here. And my final thing to say about this game and how good it is, I have a friend who has no idea what Star Wars is, has never seen a single film, including any of the Star Wars movies, and he likes this game a lot because he is a person who plays games. I think that's the highest praise this game could possibly have. It does not matter if you're not a fan of Star Wars. You will like this game if you like games. I think this game's very much worth getting into. I think it's very much worth buying into. I haven't even mentioned the fact that it's fairly cheap to be able to play the game. In the Great Southern Land, it's $26 per starter deck and then $5 per pack. Each pack contains 5 cards, including 1 card that comes with a die. The boxes themselves are well put together. They are 36 boosters, and 1 in 6 of those boosters is a legendary rare, or like the top rarity, which means the game's not prohibitively hard to get into. The legendaries themselves are generally on par with rares, so the game is, again, not prohibitively hard to get into. And beyond that, I can't say a lot more about the game, other than it's fantastic. You should play it. If you're interested, I will be putting together some deck techs, I'll be putting together some strategy guides, some hints, anything else I can think of to go on this channel. If there's anything that you yourself would like to know about, please let me know. I will consider it strongly. Meanwhile, I also play the DBZ trading card game. If you would like to hear me talk about that, although very briefly, follow the link in the description to Team Visiting for Time's homepage, where I and several other players, including the aforementioned player who's never seen Star Wars, talk about DBZ at depth. I'm Nick, and I will catch you next time I catch you. Bye!